I-75 has got to be around here somewhere. Are you sure you're going east? Yes, I am sure I'm going east. You're positive? Yes, Hatter, there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that... Hang on, which way is Toledo? That's it, pull over, I'm going to ask for directions.
Hatter went inside to ask for directions. Honestly, I didn't think it was that hard to find our way home from North Baltimore, but what are you gonna do?
Anyway, I think this is kind of fun. You know, sometimes it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Much like the journey in Sheila Burnford's novel, The Incredible Journey. Okay, that was a lousy segue, but screw it, we're just gonna go with it. This short and very simple story chronicles the journey of 3 household pets as they tried to make their way through the unfriendly mountain wilderness. The story is a testament of the loyalty of these pets to their owners, their toughness and resiliency in a foreign environment, not unlike the hobbits we just talked about in the last review, come to think of it, and the constant battle that is waged between natural animal instinct and the domestication of the softer world of the humans.
Hey, you were right. East is that way.
Didn't I tell you?
What are you doing?
Oh, just talking, travelogue stuff, you know.
You started a review, didn't you?
No, of course not. On a completely unrelated note, what did you think of the movie version of The Incredible Journey?
Reg.
Come on, it's a short, simple story. We'll just do it while we're driving home. It won't take long at all.
Give me the camera.
All right, here. Here, get careful with it.
Yes, Reg, I've got it.
Disney actually made 2 adaptations of this story, one in 1963 and one in 1993. Now, we haven't actually seen the 1963 version, but based on our research...
Research in this case meaning Wikipedia.
Yes, thank you. Based on that, we've discovered that the 1963 version is actually pretty faithful to the original material, meaning that a comparison of the 1993 version, Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey, which isn't quite as faithful to the original material, is considerably more interesting. This version of the film, starring the vocal talent of Don Amici, Sally Fields, and Michael J. Fox, differs considerably from the original material, not quite as much as Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but more than The Prestige. This movie focuses more on the human side of the story, not just the human characters in the story, but also the human characteristics of the animals. Or at least the human characteristics we often project on the animals. It's another case of 2 versions of the same story attempting to do 2 different things. But which one does it better? Well, let's find out. This is Books vs. Movies review of The Incredible Journey. For round 1, we'll look at the main characters in this narrative, the pets. There's a pretty stark difference between the 2 sets of pets, and that is most immediately and obviously reflected in their names. The movie pets are given names that you can pretty much easily understand. Chance, Shadow, and Sassy. They match their personalities. Whereas the book gives the pets names that are a little more incomprehensible. Luoth, Bodger, and Dow. In addition, while in the movie we hear the pets referring to each other by those names, in the book they rarely use them unless there are humans present in the scene. Because if you think about it, animals are probably not going to refer to each other by their human-given names. They're going to think of each other as descriptive adjectives or breeds, which is how the book describes these pets. Hatter, I'm gonna pull over. What? Why? Nothing looks familiar. The other major difference is in the ages and personalities of the 2 dogs. Both book and movie feature 2 dogs, a younger dog and an older dog. In the movie, the personalities match the ages in much the way that you would expect, with the younger dog, Chance, being very energetic and somewhat foolish, and the older dog, Shadow, being wiser and being more of a leader. In the book, though, these personalities are switched, with the younger dog, Luoth, being the leader of the group, and the older dog, Bodger, being the kind of energetic follower who is somewhat foolish, or at least a little bit more out of his element than the other 2 pets. The breeds are also slightly different, but because I'm not really a pet owner, I'm not going to get into those distinctions. Hello?
Hey Hatter, it's Alicia.
Oh, hey Alicia, what's up?
Well, I kind of sensed that you were talking about pets as if you actually had any experience on the subject, so I thought I would cut in and kind of help you out a little.
Well, see, the thing is...
You've never had a pet in your life. Goldfish and hermit crabs don't count.
I had a mealworm in 4th grade.
Why don't you let me handle this? The thing about pets, and dogs in particular, is that they're not all going to act in the same way. Different breeds exhibit different behaviors. Luoth takes the lead, for example, because he's a lab, and that's kind of what labs do. Shadow as a golden retriever would do the same thing. Though it's not stated explicitly in the book, we get the feeling that both of them are showing a lot of loyalty to their owners and that they'll do anything to get back to them. Other dogs don't have those instincts. Bodger, who has been around humans his entire life, and then Chance, who has been adopted by his human family and therefore craves their attention, they're both going to crave human company, and they seem a bit out of their element in the wild.
Okay, so it makes sense, fair enough, but as a pet owner, would you not agree that we tend to project human characteristics on our pets?
Sure. Each animal has a personality, and we're going to equate them with human personalities.
Well, that's basically what Homeward Bound does. The animals in the book act pretty much like animals, and their actions are described pretty objectively. It's kind of like a nature documentary. A lot is made of their natural animal instinct fighting against their human domestication, but it's all very much like an animal expert observing the actions of these three pets. And the only insight that we have into their actual motivations is just speculations based on those observations. In the movie, however, we actually hear what they are thinking with very human voices given to their thoughts. Now, on the one hand, if we were to actually get a glimpse into the thoughts of animals, they probably wouldn't sound like this with human phrasing and colloquialisms and that sort of thing. But on the other hand, maybe they would. Maybe after being raised by humans for so long, the pet's thoughts would start to reflect human speech. When it comes right down to it, we have no way of knowing. Plus, this style of characterization really represents what we do with pets and often other animals all the time. My guess is that they just took these three animals and let them cavort around in nature and then had the voice actors lend human voices to their actions, much like we do with pets and animals all the time. So then it's not so much a story about the nature of animals as it is how we treat our pets. We give them names like Chant, Shadow, and Sassy, we lend human voices to their actions and their motivations, and we even have a tendency to think of dogs as boys and cats as girls. In the book, all three pets were male, but in the movie, they made the cat, Sassy, into a female. Both characterizations work for the story that they're trying to tell, but I think that the movie characterizations connect a little bit more, because not everybody is going to connect with a nature documentary, but almost everyone is going to connect with how we relate to pets, so I'm going to side with the movie on this one.
Alright, fair enough. Are you coming home soon?
We're on our way now. Reg is a little lost.
You're lost? You've driven that route dozens of times.
I've learned over the years not to question Reg.
Alright, talk to you soon, Hatter. Hey, thanks for filming, sweetie.
Hey, no problem. So, Hatter decided that he was going to drive for a while because he thought he could navigate better than me. The result being that we are still lost. So, I figured as long as we're just waiting around, we may as well carry on with the review. Round 1 looked at the pets, so round 2 is going to look at the humans. Alright, admittedly the humans feature a lot more in the movie than they do in the book, but that's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, the humans might get their own subplot in the movie and everything, but it's not a terribly interesting one. You've got a new stepdad in the family, and the oldest son is disgruntled because he can't relate with him, blah-de-blah-de-blah. It's been done. And to be honest, it was a stale formula even in the early 90s. The book humans don't really have a story to speak of, since we don't really see them until the very end of the story when they reunite with the pets. They're basically just there for convenience, because the pets need owners to return to, but they fulfill that function well, and they still seem pretty legitimate as characters.
Hey, we're still heading in the right. Did you start round 2 without me?
Well, you were off asking for directions, so I thought I would just carry on with things.
You could have waited for me. Okay, you know what?
Alright.
Do your part of the review. I'm done.
Humans, right? Humans. Formulaic though the human subplot might be in the movie, that's really more of a story issue than a character issue, and it's not really why I find the human characters compelling anyway. The human characters in both versions of the story basically exist to show us the relationships between pets and their owners. Now, we hear a lot about those relationships in the book, and we get to see evidence of it at the end, but that's not really enough. In the movie, we actually get to see the agony that these humans go through in losing these pets and the lengths that they go to find them. Again, it's about two different stories doing two different things, with the book focusing more on the instinct versus domestication issue, and the movie being more about pets. Pets aren't just animals that humans decide to keep in their houses on a whim. They become valued members of the family, and the love of an owner to his pet is often every bit as much as a human would have toward a child. The movie shows the unique bond that each child has for the pet that they most strongly associate with. And we care about what happens to the pets because they care about what happens to the pets. And the love goes both ways. Throughout the movie, we hear the pets talking about how they need to get home not to be taken care of by their owners, but to take care of their owners. Again, whether or not that's accurate to the way that animals actually think is irrelevant, because it's the way that we think animals think. And it shows us that we need them as much as they need us. And so again, I gotta side with the movie. Alright, let's go.
You're sure we're going east?
Yes, I am sure we're going east, Reg.
And how can you tell?
I'm using celestial navigation.
Well, they've been traveling for 2 days. Same route they've always taken?
Yes.
And? They're lost as all hell. So far, so good.
Do you feel like this should be easier? Yeah. Kind of weird that we haven't made it home yet. Yeah. You think someone's messing with us? Sure looks that way. So nature? Yep. This is basically the antagonist of the story, the natural hazards of being in the wilderness. Things like wild animals, the cold, and the inability to get food all stand between our domesticated pets and their getting home. As we've mentioned before, the movie makes these pets considerably more domesticated than they are in the book, and so the hazards, therefore, seem that much more hazardous. Chance suffers especially because he's not as competent at sassy at finding food and avoiding trouble, and he's not as intelligent as Shadow. The movie also adds an additional threat as they leave the wilderness and return to the city. Now they have to fight against the people who take them. Hey, I've got something to say about this one. Give me the camera. All right, settle yourself down, Reg. Here. All right, here's the thing about that. Even though they're cast as being sinister, these guys are actually helping. They pull the porcupine quills from Chance's nose and they try to hold the pets until the family gets there. All the pets did was delay their reunion with the family, and I don't blame the pets for that, I blame the holders. I have a real problem with these guys. They've made a career out of handling animals. If so, they really suck at it. All it would have taken would have been a few calming words and the pets would have been fine. Instead, we have a moronic fat ass being a moronic fat ass. I guess I just don't really see the point of this scene. It's unnecessary slapstick and not done terribly well. And then there's the nature itself, which compared to the book is pretty tame. I mean, other than Sassy almost drowning in the river, we know they're gonna be okay. Their lives really aren't that much in danger. I mean, Chance and Shadow actually outsmart a mountain lion with a very human contraption. In the book, they're pretty evenly matched with the animals in the wilderness as far as intelligence is concerned, and their domestication is actually a disadvantage. The nature in the book is dangerous and threatening, almost killing the pets. We honestly don't know if Bodger survives at the end. And I know it's a Disney movie and it's for kids and they're not going to want to make it too scary and all that, but no matter how you slice it, the pets have more to fight against in the book. Well, Reg, ready to drive in some more circles? Onward, partner. You know what I think? What's that? I think we're not going to get home until we finish the review. What makes you think that? Think about it. We had to walk to North Baltimore during the Lord of the Rings review. Why? No reason, just because. And we didn't stop singing and dancing in the musical until the review finished. Why were we singing and dancing? No reason, just because. And now, as we review a story about an incredible journey, we can't stop making this journey home. Sounds like you're sniffing around for a conspiracy, Reg. You think I'm crazy? No, I think there's a bloody conspiracy. So let's finish this review and get to the bottom of it. Round 4 looks at Imagery. Now, neither of these two stories really has anything new to offer in the way of imagery, but they do have different ways of going about it. The movie gives us some great shots of the wilderness, and despite the fact that no animals were harmed during the making of this film, it makes us think that the animals could have been harmed. I mean, I really like what they do with the animals, basically lending human voice to their antics, especially Chance and Sassy. The animals don't talk, they don't try to make their lips move or anything, which I think is a pretty smart decision on their part, but you can tell that they are communicating with each other, and you understand that they're communicating with each other with this kind of universal speech of animals, though, granted, the use of human phrases and colloquialisms is kind of off-putting at times. And again, the book's descriptive style is very objective and detailed, almost like a nature documentary. The animals aren't actually named unless humans are around, and we aren't given any particular insight into their motivations or their thoughts. All we know is what we can see, which is exactly what the book is setting out to give us. And the book is very raw at times, and it doesn't shy away from the grittier aspects of the story. Not only does it make us feel as though something is actually at stake, but it makes us feel as though we are actually observing these animals in the wild. And in this case, it really is the book's imagery that makes the story what it is. The same can't be said for the movie's imagery. Not that it's bad, it just isn't terribly vital to the story. So because of that, the book gets another point here.
You've got to be kidding me. We've still got one more round to go, Reg. One more round, one more day. I mean, what is this? What's going on? It's like the genre of the thing we're reviewing is... What is it? I've said this before. Said what? The point about the genres of the thing we're reviewing becoming the genre of the review. Think about it. Lord of the Rings, epic story. Disney versus fairy tale, musical. Roger Rabbit, film noir. If that's true, editing Matt surely knows something about it. He does. He said in the musical he was doing it because he was getting bored, but why did I forget that? Well, we can find out when we get back, and we'll get back once we finish the review. So let's do the last round, and then we can go confront editing Matt. All right. Let's look at story.
Now, as we've said numerous times during this review, this is another case where we've got two different stories trying to do two different things. The book is basically about these animals' journey home, and it doesn't sugarcoat anything. It's very raw and very real. There's no human spin on the animals, no amusing dialogue between them, no slapstick. It's very simply an observation of these animals in a decidedly undomesticated world. And there's a lot of great stuff with nature versus nurture as their animal instincts fight against their human domestication in the wild. The movie, on the other hand, puts more of a human face to the story. Not only does it focus more on the humans in the story, giving them their own development, characterization, and subplot, but it also makes the pets very human as well. Their thoughts are given human voices with human sayings, jokes, and idiosyncrasies. Parallels are drawn between the pets and the humans that they have the closest bond with. And the movie shows us a lot of how we as humans relate to our pets, project human characterizations on them, and treat them as valued members of the family. The problem with this is that it does what Disney very often does, taking a unique story and giving it the Disney formula treatment. Not every aspect of the journey is cleaned up, but a lot of it is. And there's a lot of goofy slapstick moments, particularly with Chance, in order to break up the reality of them being out of their element. And a lot of the human story is very basic, and if we're gonna be honest, not terribly interesting. And the problem with the book is that at times it's a little too dehumanized. And I know that it's about animals, and that's kind of the point, but it's kind of hard to relate to animals on an animal level. So it's practically a tie. The two stories are doing two different things. It's an apples and oranges situation. It seems to be happening a lot lately. So how do we decide? I mean, it's like we need someone here to break the tie. Hey guys, how long have you been there? Also, who are you? Don't worry, I got this. Now, this is probably just my own personal preference, but I have difficulty getting into animal stories. Maybe it's because I never had a pet growing up, but stories that focus on animal characters just don't interest me that much. I prefer stories about humans and their relationships with animals, which is why I find the movie version of this story so compelling. It's not the most realistically told story in the world, and certainly not in comparison to the book, but it allows us to relate with animals much like we do with our pets, by projecting a human voice and characterization on them. The movie is basically an opportunity to experience a story about pets, while the book is about animals. And not that the book is bad, and not that it isn't fascinating in its own way, and not that people don't find that story compelling, because I'm sure they do. But it's interesting in a nature observation sort of way, and as a human, I related more closely to the human characters, and I think that's true of a lot of people as well, both inside and outside the pet world. So just by a smidge,
movie wins. Scotty. Just don't do it, man. Just don't do it! You can stop this! Why? I'm sorry, Ed. I warned you about this.